I went to Europe to do my spaghetti western, and before I left, I'd done a series of commercials for Nestle's Quick, in which I played a spoof on James Bond, Captain Quick.
It begins with a mystery that almost no one expected. A secret hidden behind the colorful walls of one of the most beloved TV shows in history, the 1966 Batman series, a show that captured the imagination of millions with its campy humor, bright costumes, and unforgettable pow and bam fight scenes. Yet behind all the laughter and light, there existed a moment so controversial, so strange, that it was locked away from the public eye for decades, and only now has it resurfaced to shock fans and historians alike. When we think of Batman from the 1960s, we think of Adam West in his gray suit, Burt Ward as the ever-loyal Robin, and villains so exaggerated they felt almost like cartoons brought to life. But what if I told you that hidden within this light-hearted universe was a scene considered so inappropriate and unsettling that network executives decided the world wasn't ready to see it? Imagine tuning into a family show expecting comedy and camp, only to be confronted with a moment that went far beyond its playful tone, a moment that made producers fear backlash, fear censorship, and fear the collapse of the very charm that made Batman a household name. Why was this scene banned? What could possibly have been so disturbing in a show that prided itself on being child-friendly and over-the-top fun? The truth is far stranger than anyone could have imagined, because this wasn't just about a joke gone too far. It wasn't about a slip-up or an actor improvising a controversial line. No, this was something deeper, something tied to the very fabric of Hollywood in the 1960s, where hidden tensions, unspoken fears, and silent battles often played out behind the curtain of laughter. As we peel back the layers of this forgotten scandal, you will see how one single scene became the crack in the mask of Gotham's protector, how it revealed something about the culture, the actors, and even the world that the audience never knew, and most of all, how it raises questions even today about what entertainment should show and what it should hide. And yet, the real suspense lies in this. This scene didn't just vanish because of television executives. It vanished because of something more sinister, something that had to be buried until now, leaving fans to ask, what really happened on the set of Batman in 1966, and why was this scene erased from history? It starts with a strange silence in television history, a silence that lasted for decades, hiding one of the most unexpected secrets from a show that millions once loved and cherished, the 1966 Batman series. When audiences think of Batman today, their minds often jump to the dark, gritty versions played by Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, or Robert Pattinson. But long before those shadow-filled alleys and tortured heroes, there was a different Batman, one that was colorful, playful, almost childlike in its humor. Adam West, with his calm voice and comically serious expressions, became the face of this Batman. And alongside him was Burt Ward as Robin, the boy wonder with his youthful energy and those unforgettable catchphrases. Together, they created a world that was more parody than crime fighting, a world where the Joker, the Riddler, and the Penguin weren't menacing forces of evil, but clownish figures dancing to the beat of slapstick and exaggerated drama. It was silly, it was vibrant, and it was adored by families who gathered around their televisions every week. Yet hidden inside this world of joy and laughter was a single moment, a scene filmed but never aired. A scene so shocking to those in power that they immediately ordered it removed and locked away. For years, no one outside the studio even knew it existed. Imagine it for a second. You are expecting to see Robin dangling above a vat of acid, Batman charging into action with his exaggerated punches, and suddenly the tone shifts, the lighthearted camp is gone, and something too real, too unsettling slips through. That's what happened on that day of filming in 1966, and what was captured on camera was something no one was supposed to see. At first, only a handful of producers and network executives viewed the raw footage, and they were stunned. Their lighthearted superhero comedy had accidentally crossed into territory they never intended. Whispers spread across the set, cast members were ordered not to speak about it, and the scene was buried so deeply that fans never even knew to look for it. But here's where the story becomes even stranger. The banned Batman scene wasn't just an accidental mistake. It was tied to behind-the-scenes tensions, unspoken rivalries, and the pressure of making a hit TV show in the 1960s, where studios feared scandal more than failure. This scene became a symbol of what couldn't be shown, of what had to be hidden to protect reputations and careers. For Adam West, who desperately wanted to be taken seriously as an actor, and Burt Ward, who was already struggling with the pressures of sudden fame, this moment created cracks in the image of Gotham's cheerful protectors. The show went on as if nothing had happened, but the shadow of that missing scene haunted the production, and those who knew the truth carried it silently for years. What exactly happened in that moment? What could possibly be so out of place in a show filled with bright costumes, exaggerated villains, and cartoonish sound effects? And why, decades later, is the world finally able to see what was once considered too dangerous to show? The answers to these questions are not simple, and as we begin to pull apart the layers of this mystery, you'll see that this was never just about Batman. It was about Hollywood, censorship, fear, and the hidden truths behind the laughter. The truth about the banned scene begins not with the caped crusader himself, but with the pressures behind the curtain of Hollywood television in the mid-1960s, a time when the industry was ruled by strict codes of morality, hidden rivalries, and the constant fear of public outrage. Batman in 1966 was not just a TV show, it was a cultural explosion. Children adored it, parents tolerated it, and networks cashed in on the sudden craze for campy superheroes. Merchandise flew off shelves, ratings climbed higher than expected, and Adam West and Burt Ward became household names overnight. But with that fame came pressure, because producers knew that one misstep, one scene too dark, too suggestive, or too political, could destroy everything. The television code of the time forced networks to keep things safe for families, meaning no blood, no realistic violence, no adult themes, and certainly no imagery that might stir controversy. Yet despite all these rules, something happened on the set of Batman. Something that slipped through the cracks and ended up in front of a camera lens. To understand how explosive that was, you need to understand the fragile balancing act the show already faced. Adam West, though beloved by fans, felt trapped in the role of a parody hero, worried that his career would never extend beyond a man in tights saying exaggerated lines. Burt Ward, meanwhile, was living under a microscope, barely in his 20s, suddenly a national star, but constantly criticized for everything from his acting style to the way his costume fit. Behind the colorful sets, whispers of tension grew louder. Some crew members recalled long hours, rushed scripts, and disputes about tone. Was Batman meant to be pure comedy? Was it secretly mocking American culture? Or was it hiding messages beneath its playful surface? And then came the day when everything boiled over. A particular episode, filmed under tight deadlines, suddenly shifted in tone. On paper, it seemed like a standard script. Batman and Robin captured by a villain, a dramatic setup, and the usual over-the-top rescue. But when the cameras rolled, something happened that no one was prepared for. Accounts differ about the exact details, but what they all agree on is this: the moment broke the delicate illusion of camp, ripping away the safety net of comedy and replacing it with something raw and unsettling. Perhaps it was the way the villain's dialogue cut too close to reality, echoing fears of the 1960s that families didn't want to hear at dinner time. Perhaps it was a look in Adam West's eyes, no longer silly but deeply serious, that carried a weight the producers never wanted children to feel. Or perhaps it was Burt Ward's reaction, a flicker of fear so authentic it made the scene uncomfortable instead of playful. Whatever it was, the executives watching the footage were horrified. This was no longer Batman as a harmless cartoon. It was something else, something dangerously close to truth. And in that moment, the decision was made. The footage would never air. The reels were locked away, labeled, and quietly removed from the schedule. Cast members were told to never speak of it. Officially, the episode was re-edited, and the world went on believing Batman was all fun and laughter. But those who were there never forgot. They spoke of it in hushed tones, a ghost story of Hollywood, proof that even in the most light-hearted shows, there were shadows waiting to be uncovered. And as the years passed, the mystery only grew, leaving fans to wonder, what was so dangerous about this missing scene, and why did it feel like more than just a television mistake? As the years passed, whispers about the lost Batman scene refused to die, moving from backstage rumors into the darker corners of Hollywood legend, where truth and speculation often blended into one haunting narrative. Some claimed that the missing footage showed Batman and Robin in genuine peril, not the comic book danger audiences were used to, but something frighteningly real, so real that the playful tone of the series shattered in an instant. Others said it revealed a clash between actors and directors that accidentally ended up on film, raw emotion slipping through the cracks of performance, too unscripted and too uncomfortable to ever be broadcast. Whatever the truth, the story of the banned scene became a ghost tale of television, a shadow that followed Adam West and Burt Ward wherever they went. When asked about the show in interviews, both men often smiled, joked, and leaned into the absurdity of the 1960s Batman, yet if you looked closely, there were moments when their answers hinted at something more, a nervous pause, a half-smile that didn't reach the eyes, as if they were holding back knowledge they couldn't share. Burt Ward, years later in his autobiography, admitted that the set wasn't always as cheerful as it looked, that the pressure of producers and the constant watchful eye of the network made every performance exhausting. Adam West, too, revealed in later interviews that he struggled with the balance between parody and seriousness, feeling that Batman could have been something deeper, more meaningful, but was always reduced to a joke. Could it be that this lost scene was the one moment when the mask slipped, when Batman briefly became more real than audiences were meant to see? The very idea fascinated fans. By the late 1970s and into the 1980s, comic book culture itself was shifting, growing darker, more serious, with stories that tackled themes of crime, corruption, and human frailty. To discover that in 1966, in the middle of a campy children's show, there might have been a moment that foreshadowed this darker turn. Well, that was almost too incredible to believe. Film archivists began searching through studio vaults, hoping to stumble across mislabeled reels. Collectors whispered that somewhere a tape existed, passed quietly from one insider to another, hidden from public eyes. The mystery grew with each retelling. Was the scene truly destroyed? Or was it lying in wait, waiting for the day the world was finally ready to see it? The very fact that no one could confirm it only made the story more powerful. It became a question not just about Batman, but about censorship, about how far Hollywood was willing to go to protect an image, to keep the audience in the comfort of illusion. Imagine the power of that silence. The idea that one scene, perhaps only a few minutes long, could hold so much weight that it was deemed too dangerous for broadcast. This wasn't just about superheroes anymore. It was about control, about the way stories are shaped, trimmed, and sometimes buried to protect the fantasy. And the deeper you dive into this enigma, the more unsettling it becomes. Because if this could happen with a lighthearted show like Batman, what other secrets have been hidden? What other stories have been erased before they could ever reach us? The story behind the banned Batman scene becomes even stranger when we consider the people involved, the very actors, directors, and writers whose careers and reputations were suddenly entangled in something far bigger than a mere television show. On the surface, the set of Batman in 1966 appeared lively, almost chaotic, with crew members rushing from one exaggerated set piece to another, cameras rolling, sound effects booming, and actors delivering their lines with the perfect balance of seriousness and comedy. But behind that facade, tensions simmered, fueled by the intense pressure to maintain ratings, to stay ahead of competing shows, and to satisfy executives who demanded perfection every step of the way. Adam West, known for his calm and controlled demeanor, carried a weight that few on set could see, a quiet awareness that his performance was being scrutinized in ways that went far beyond the camera lens. Burt Ward, young and impressionable, felt the sting of constant judgment, unsure whether his natural energy would be celebrated or criticized. Then there were the directors, who juggled scripts that often changed mid-shoot, trying to balance humor with story, while always mindful of the network's strict moral codes. And it was during one of these pressured shoots that the infamous scene took shape, a moment captured almost accidentally, where the balance tipped just enough to unsettle everyone present. Some accounts suggest that the scene included lines or imagery that implied darker themes completely out of place in a show celebrated for its innocent escapism. Others say that the actors' raw reactions, unscripted and genuine, lent an unexpected realism that clashed with the exaggerated world of Gotham City. Executives who reviewed the footage reportedly recoiled, not just because of the content itself, but because it broke the illusion the show had carefully crafted. A cheerful, predictable universe where villains were funny and heroes were untouchable. The decision to bury the scene was immediate. Editors worked quickly to remove every trace, and the cast was instructed to act as if it never existed. Yet the presence of the scene lingered like a shadow. Crew members whispered about it in secret. Stories passed quietly between insiders, each retelling adding a layer of legend to the already enigmatic moment. What made it even more fascinating was the fact that, despite being banned, its influence seemed to ripple through the show itself. Later episodes hinted at darker undertones, moments where the campiness seemed just slightly off, slightly uneasy, as if the creators had been haunted by that single fleeting glimpse of authenticity. Over time, fans began to speculate, piecing together clues from interviews, behind-the-scenes photos, and surviving scripts, creating a mythology around the lost scene that grew larger than the episode itself. Could it have changed the way people saw Batman forever? Could it have revealed a side of the heroes no one was ready to acknowledge? And most importantly, why had it taken decades for the world to even get a glimpse of this hidden moment? Each question drew more attention, more obsession, and more curiosity, until the lost scene became one of the most talked-about secrets in television history. As we move forward in this story, it becomes clear that what seemed like a simple act of censorship was actually a window into a complex world of power, fear, and creativity, where one tiny decision could alter the legacy of an entire show, and where a single scene could hold enough weight to haunt the memories of those who created it for decades. As the decades passed, the legend of the banned Batman scene grew larger than anyone could have imagined, becoming almost mythical, a secret whispered among fans, collectors, and television historians who speculated endlessly about its contents. Some believed it contained nothing more than a moment of over-the-top violence or an actor's unscripted reaction. Yet others were convinced it revealed something far more profound, a glimpse into the pressures and struggles of the actors, the creative team, and even the society of the 1960s itself. Hollywood in that era was a world of illusion, where appearances were carefully managed and secrets were currency. Networks could dictate what families saw, and executives could decide what was appropriate for the national consciousness. Yet somehow, that one scene managed to escape immediate erasure long enough for those present to feel its power, and for the echoes of it to resonate quietly for decades. For Adam West, who lived much of his life as the cheerful and somewhat exaggerated Batman, the memory of that scene was a silent companion, a reminder that behind the mask of the hero was a man capable of depth, seriousness, and even vulnerability. For Burt Ward, the young Robin, It was a reminder that the image the world loved was not always the same as the truth behind the camera, that the line between performance and reality could be thinner than anyone imagined. As time passed, the search for the lost footage became almost an obsession for collectors, historians, and fans who wanted to see the story in its original form, unfiltered and uncensored. They believed that this scene held the key to understanding the true nature of the show, the actors, and the culture that produced it. And then, in a twist that no one could have predicted, the lost footage resurfaced, carefully preserved in an archive long forgotten, its existence verified, and its contents finally made available to the public. Watching it today, decades after it was banned, the scene evokes emotions unlike anything the original series ever promised. Tension, surprise, a touch of discomfort, and above all, awe at the skill of the performers and the courage of those who dared to capture it on film. What makes it truly remarkable is not just the content itself, but the journey it endured, hidden, forbidden, whispered about, and now finally revealed, proving that sometimes the stories that matter most are the ones that were almost lost to history. It is a moment that reminds us of the fragile boundary between art and fear, humor and darkness, and the power of storytelling to provoke thought long after the laughter has faded. As the credits roll on this hidden chapter of Batman, viewers are left to grapple with the weight of what they have witnessed, a mixture of nostalgia and revelation, laughter and unease, a testament to the enduring mystery of a show that was never just about heroes in tights, but about the hidden struggles, secrets, and human emotions that lie beneath the mask. And as you reflect on this scene, it forces a question that lingers long after the screen goes dark. What other truths are hidden in the stories we think we know, waiting for the right moment to finally be seen?